Hey everyone, it's BDC. How you doing? Thanks for checking out my channel and this video. Today I'm doing a Empyrion video, a showcase on a small base I built. Actually, it's not that small, but a plant nursery base that I constructed. I don't know, it's probably a week or two ago, and wanted to show you guys this. I always wanted to do a standalone plant nursery garden type thing and never really did it. So I was on a building streak, having done all these other types of standalone bases. So I decided to do this one as well. As you can see, just as a quick note, you have to use the F5 personal drone to spawn this one in. It's a little tricky sometimes, but it does work. There we go. It is on the ground. That's in survival, by the way. In creative, it kind of doesn't really matter. But I wanted to demonstrate how you have to do it in survival. Anywho, this is the outside of it, the Plant Nursery BA. And basically, what this thing is all about is it's one giant vertical nursery. It's got multiple levels of grow plots in it. I think this one I left at 4, if I remember correctly. So 4 floors. Each one has 36 grow plots, 4x9s, and connected by an elevator in the center shaft. We've got a couple of ventilators on this base. We've got some mood lighting. We've got motion sensors that activate the lights. That's for a power efficiency thing. I'm real big on that sort of thing on the bases I build to try to make everything as power efficient as possible. We also have some cannon turrets that are laid up on top of the base, and then also some sentry turrets. Everything turret-wise is already pre-configured, same with the lamps and lights and everything like that. You don't have to do anything on this base. Basically, you just plop it down and go to town. So as I was saying, each floor has 4 3x3 grow plot grids there. Spit the words out, BTC. So that's 36 per floor, so that's 144 total. And you can use this to plant whatever the heck you like. It's just meant to be one of those things where it's a plant nursery. It's its own separate garden, however much you want to put in it, on its own power grid away from a main base if you so desire. Generally, these things don't consume a lot of power unless you start using a ton of grow lights. I mean, if you go crazy with the nursery, and I think you can get a lot of power consumption out of them. These things are 5 kilowatts a pop, but you need 1 per 3x3 grid. So in this case, I think on this base it is, let's find out, 322 minus 242, that's 80 kilowatts. And this is, I'd call this a mid-sized plant nursery. It's not humongous, but it's also not terribly small either. So if you had this giant thing, you can wind up with a little bit of power consumption with those grow lights, and those things have to stay on full time. So anyways, this thing is over-designed on solar, and that's on purpose. The aim behind this design, besides just getting it as its own base separate from a main base structure, is to make it as low maintenance as possible. Now you have to maintain oxygen supply in it, but if I recall correctly, I went kind of nuts on the total oxygen that's in here. I think it's like something like 20,000. Yeah, it's 20,000. It's 10 large oxygen chains. So I wanted to go kind of crazy with that and make it to where you can really fill the sucker up and leave it alone and not have to, mess with it very often. Same for fuel. I use several solar capacitors in here. So part of what you want to do when you spawn this thing in is you want to get it to where the power's off, you're digging it out, and during that time that you're digging it out underground and and setting everything up and putting grow plots in it and that sort of thing like that, that the sun is baking into the solar panels and getting some solar battery built up. Advisedly, I would advise that you give yourself a couple of game days to do it. Really allow it to get set up well. Total power consumption on this thing, let's take a look. think I have any. I don't have any O2 bottles, so let me grab some from the stack here, and we'll fill that thing up. So this thing takes about, I'm going to guess, 75 to 80 bottles, something like that, to fill it up. The total power consumption on this thing is, yeah, just under 400 kilowatts with everything turned on. Now, even though some of the interior lights are not on, they're motion sensor activated. The main power switch for all those and for the motion sensor remains on. Keeping the food processor, normally I don't keep that on. At idle, it takes up 30 kilowatts or 30 power units. The fridges for storage, that's an elective. The food processor and the fridges I put in here, they're an elective type thing if you want to use this also as storage for vegetables, the natural sweeteners, stuff like that you grow. You don't necessarily have to craft your food here, but it is set up to be able to do that. And those things are accessible via the control panel. Individual power groups for ventilators, grow lights, that sort of thing like that. Going back to the power thing, 1.41 kilowatts right now, and it is still rising. Depending upon where you place this on the map, I tend to do some of this stuff testing-wise towards the equator of whatever starter world I'm on, whatever game I'm on, to try and really get some maximum numbers to feel this thing out. So I anticipate this thing going up to 1 3/4 to 1.8 kilowatts, which is 4 to 5 times the amount of consumption of power in the base. So it gives it a chance to get the battery up during the daytime, even while all the plants and everything are growing. So I'd already mentioned turrets. This is a little bit better view of the turrets on the top. I've got a pair of sentries as anti-personnel, cannons for larger stuff. The solar cell bank, their solar array bank rather, is all covered in armored glass. This is something I started doing several months ago on some of their standalone bases I make. This is a defensive thing. And some of the structures made out of concrete, in particular the exposed areas up top over here, the entrance, things like that. This isn't meant for combat, but I do want to have some level of defense on it if for some reason it gets attacked by drones, or if it's set up, heaven forbid, on a PvP area and somebody rolls over here. I want it to where they have to, work a little bit to have to get in here. So that's about it. It's pretty simple. There's not much to it. 36 grow plots required just to get you started on the first floor, with the remaining floors left open. This is a level 10 guy. It takes quite a bit of stone dust. That accounts for the armored concrete and what have you. And other basic materials, aside from some sathium, and then, as for mentioned, the growing plots, and then cobalt ingot. So something like this you wouldn't build on your first day on a survival server. This is something that you would wind up doing on a setup where you've already got a base established and you've already got good drillers and good resource allocation, and you're bouncing other plants and that kind of thing like that. One thing I do want to mention on here is that this guy is Alpha 9 compliant. I did build this in Alpha 9, and even though I don't think logistics is going to be a big deal on this, you can still use the wireless connection for moving anything that you've crafted within the refrigerators. So that's it. I don't think there's much else to it. It's highly power efficient. And like I was saying, whenever you spawn it in, use the F5 drone, put the drone rather on the ground to try and get it dug down as deep as possible to where the stairwell and the turrets and stuff like that's flush here, with the remainder of it being deep within the ground. Give yourself maybe half hour, 45 minutes, or get a buddy and use a tier 2 drill, dig the sucker out, and go through and check the power groups and do whatever you want to do on it, and that's it. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for your time, and if you like the video, click that like button and subscribe. I am going to be putting up more and more videos for Empyrion all the time. Appreciate your time on this. Hope this helps somebody out there, and thank you very much. Have a good day.